Good morning, everyone. Not a media person, but I am going to speak on how we look at media in South Asia. So I'll take basically a general view of media, not specific to any countries, but bringing in the experience of the neighborhood, how it is, how the news on the neighboring countries are portrayed in the both regional and national media. In the context of India, of course, very vast. So you have regional variation on the countries which are represented. Like for example, any media in West Bengal will be presenting much more news report on Bangladesh. Similar is the case on like Tamil Nadu. You have a lot of news coming, which actually is focused on Sri Lanka. On the western side in Punjab and Delhi, of course, the focus is much more on Pakistan and Af-Pak region. So you have basically a kind of variation as far as the representation of neighboring countries is concerned, as far as Indian media is concerned. Now this is basically some data on print and electronics media, because all of us, we know that print media has a very limited kind of, much more confined to the people who can read, are literate, but whereas the visual media and the social media has a much more wide range as far as the reachability of the audience is concerned. So this basically gives you a kind of figure of print and newspaper magazines in all the South Asian countries. I can give the figure later because of the constraint of the time. I'm not going to go read through what actually are the figures. Now let me come to the media and the messages. Actually, what is the kind of message that media gives as far as the regional understanding is concerned? Second issue is that does media play a role in regional understanding, or should it play a role in regional understanding when the states have been a dominant factor in South Asia as far as visa regimes are concerned, as far as people-to-people contact is concerned? So to what extent the media can play a role in furthering the regional understanding? Perhaps it can give a fill-up to actually what the state does, probably promote and further some of the regional understanding by portraying happenings in various countries in a much more positive manner than it has done, because of the TRPs, because of the profit motive, because of the kind of sensationalization of the news. So therefore it has played much more with a eye on the TRP, especially the visual media. Okay, so when one look at the role of media, one also looks at the visual media, which is very, very powerful. As I said, compared to the print media, the visual media has a much more reach, especially the government medias, because in many of the places in the country, where the Doordarshan have a much more better reach compared to the private channels. The same is case of all the countries in South Asia, because the official media reaches the villages. Only the the other media probably through the, if you have the disk antenna and also you get access to other medias also. And of course the question of the new media, which is the social media, the SMSs, the YouTube, the kind of WhatsApp kind of application where within a minute you can create your opinion, you can fuel violence, you can create hatredness, which one has seen all over, especially in the context of India, the violence in Northeast, which basically saw the exodus of many people from Bangalore to Assam. One also has seen the incident of Ramu in Bangladesh. Same is also the case a long time back, of course not the visual media, in Nepal, when Hrithik Roshan issue was played up. It led to violence in Nepal and anti-India feeling. So you have this kind of the visual, that's where I'm emphasizing the visual media and the social media are much more important compared to the print media. Nevertheless, I'm not saying that print media doesn't play much role. It definitely plays a role and reaches the people who are opinion makers in most of the South Asian countries. But still, these are the people where, when you speak of public opinion, as far as promoting regional understanding is concerned, I think the visual media definitely generates a much more greater public opinion compared to the print media because of the reach. Now, of course, given the restricted visa regime, media also is a window to the outside world, to the neighborhood, because not many people can travel apart from Nepal and Bhutan. I think most of us were restricted to listening what is happening in the other countries through the media, which has become much easier with the YouTube, where you get the news discussions which is happening in other countries sitting in India. Then what is the media's mandate? Like some of my co-panelists are going to speak on the profit motive, the motive of ownership, ideological kind of division, where the media plays, especially this ideological division is much more visible in Bangladesh compared to other countries, where you have each of the political parties having their own, at least have the ownership who are affiliated to some political parties and also generate a particular kind of opinion. Especially, I have seen that in Bangladesh. But in other countries, of course, there is this question of some degree of media control. And then the reporting also is evaluated in terms of your patriotism. What actually you're reporting? Does it support the country's, in a sense, country's perspective as far as the bilateral relations is concerned? So your entire reporting is seen through your patriotism, whether you are patriotic or not. Especially this happens in the context of, much more in the context of India, Pakistan, whereas in the context of like Sri Lanka and Bangladesh, of course, it's internal conflict in Sri Lanka, whether you are supporting the Tamils or not, or what is the kind of opinion you are generating. But I have seen this media patriotism in the context of India, Pakistan, much more compared to other neighbors. Then, of course, this medium, 24/7 news media, where the news channels are much more, are actually beaming into the drawing room of people in South Asia, where you get completely different pictures all the time. Like, for example, the recent past, the 26/11, where it was completely beamed to the drawing room, and we kept on watching like as if some movie is going on the entire night, seeing what is happening in Mumbai. So that is the kind of, which generates a different kind of sentiment and opinion. Coming to the next slide, the conflict and sensationalism finds much mention than positive developments in the region. This is based on our study for the past 2 months, looking at different medias, both vernacular and the English press. Of course, in the context of Sri Lanka, we could not see the vernacular press, but in the context of Pakistan and Bangladesh, we took into account the vernacular media's reporting on many of the issues. Then when one also looks at the vernacular media, one also looks at what is the kind of vernacular media you are looking. Suppose, for example, in Bangladesh, if you are looking at Pratham Alo, so you get a very different kind of report which emanates from there. And if you are reading like, for example, Din Kal or Sangram, of course, the Jamaat mouthpiece, so you will get a very different opinion about what is happening in India and the incidents there. Then there is also division within the media fraternity in terms of reporting, people having connection to different groups, different interests, and there is a aggressive media partnership, partisanship, like who is reporting what, and like breaking news. In the morning we heard Brigadier Dahiya speaking of breaking news. So the breaking news actually takes much more emphasis than the news. So obviously any kind of peace can't be breaking news unless until it is India, Pakistan, completely saying it is peace and we accept everything, our status quo. So maybe that will make news. I don't think any other peace news in any other neighboring countries will make a news except for internal conflict like the LTT war, where the end of the war definitely made a news all over South Asia. Then power of extra-regional media in shaping media discourse in the region is also equally important. For example, right now we have, the Express, like in Pakistan you have Express Tribune, like in India, the Times Group has been there. So you have the international media which are coming into like CNN, IBN, you have the media tie-up. I'm sure that you have the similar kind of tie-up in other neighboring countries. Now, to what extent media plays a role in foreign and security policies, we are going to discuss in detail tomorrow. I think more statist than the state, some of the time the media. Like, for example, in competitive journalism, when you are dependent mostly, if you are reporting on conflict area, so you are mostly dependent on the security personnel about what you are reporting. So if you want to get information from the security personnel, exactly what is happening, so you need to be more statist because the information is very, very limited. Then, of course, media plays a big role in deepening conflict and widening the gulf between different states. And apart from that, I'll come to where the media also has played a role in bringing countries together, at least making an attempt. There is less space for alternative viewpoint. If one glance at especially the print media, even also in the visual media, some of the time, the anchor actually exhorts you to take a particular point of view. You are very unknowingly, sometimes you make a slip and that becomes a breaking news the next day, if you are appearing in the electronics media. So one has to be very, very careful about which anchor you are going to go and attend especially the media, especially the visual media discussion if you are with Arnab, and all of us, we know what will happen to you. There is also media nationalism, which exacerbates difference and breed jingoism to a very large extent. Then, of course, even if when one speaks of the divided media and the kind of attempt which media has, played in the past, as far as the regional cooperation is concerned, I think two issues which becomes extremely significant. The first issue is Aman Ki Asha, which is an initiative by the Jung and Times Group. They played their own role. If the states are not interested, the media also has a very limited role. But nevertheless, I think it is a kind of attempt which needs to be appreciated. The second was the Maitri Bandhan, which again is a joint initiative between the Times of India and Prathamalo. Did not make much significance because Bangladesh in Delhi doesn't make much significance. It is rather Aman Ki Asha got much more media space compared to this Maitri Bandhan, which was an initiative between India and Bangladesh. The reason could be because of the kind of relationship the countries share with each other. Then this attempt also draw flag from the sister media concerns. Reason and the media, posting media personnel in each other's country is a problem. Recently we had seen, I think last year, the person who was representative of Hindu in Pakistan was asked to leave within 2 days. So you have this kind of problem in posting your own media people in each other's country, given the kind of relationship we share. Then the preliminary findings which you did of the content analysis of 15 newspapers from the neighborhood reveals the following few points. A limited report on South Asia and other parts of the world gets much more space. No effort to enhance knowledge about neighboring countries. So if you have a flood or if you have a devastating earthquake, so you'll find some media space in the neighboring countries. And in all the medias, India gets the maximum attention in the regional media. So probably could be the geographical relations. Probably the reason is that none of the neighbors share border with each other except for Pakistan and Afghanistan. So that could be the reason, the regional media are much more India focused compared to the Indian media. Like I gave the regional representation of the Indian media, how the eastern media reports, how the southern media reports, and how the media on the northern part of the country reports when it comes to the happening in the neighboring countries. Then, of course, the focus is much more on Indian security and foreign policies, not on society and culture. Could be, maybe we know each other better, or we don't know, so therefore we don't think something needs to be emphasized. Though, of course, the Bollywood is covered thoroughly in all the regional medias, including the visual media. Perhaps it dominates in Pakistan and Sri Lanka because I have seen that. In Bangladesh, of course, it is the Hindi serials. Indian media in the neighborhood, especially the local newspaper covering the proximate neighborhood. So in the Assam, you get a lot of focus on Bangladesh. You don't get that kind of focus in as far as the other regional media is concerned. Then there is a temptation to portray India as a bully and a hegemon because you are not actually moving out from the given parameter how India has been defined. So you don't displease anybody. If you are looking for news report, so that becomes important. So very quickly, recognition of Indian democracy, of course, that also plays a role. The APAC developments find mentions in India and Pakistani media, but ignored in other countries. So no effort to realize the potential of the SARC channel, the SARC audiovisual program, which was there for a very long time, with the marginalization of Doordarshan. I don't think, I have not seen. I used to watch it when I was in the university, but these days I don't see it. What is the way out very quickly? I think coordination among the regional media house would be extremely important because the coordination is there in terms of reporting, especially one has seen NDTV from Pakistan. There are reporters from the NDTV, especially Pakistan nationals reporting for the NDTV. So one has seen this kind of coordination. I think need to focus on the region, especially neighborhood deserves better coverage. And for that, I think the government needs to play a very important role in facilitating the travel of the journalists and reporting in each other countries. Portrayal of negative images of neighbors must be avoided, and emphasis on building bridges rather than widening the divide should be taken into consideration. Efforts by states towards regional integration should be promoted. Efforts made by think tanks and deliberation, this is something, what we deliberate here hardly finds any mention in the media. So it's almost, you have to put it in your website to say that actually this is what we discuss and this is what is happening. All the efforts must be geared towards creation of an atmosphere for regional peace and understanding. And I stop here. Thank you so much for attention, and I look forward for question and answer.